One of the things that startles me pretty much wherever I travel, and particularly during my years in America, is the degree to which people do not keep their commitments and agreements and promises, where they treat commitment, when they make a commitment, what they're really saying is, I will if I can, if it suits me at the time, maybe, possibly, we'll see, who knows, so that they show up as being very, very flaky. It's a country where a lot of people are flaky a lot of the time, and worse still, refuse to take responsibility for that and be accountable, so that if they get called on their commitments, what they produce is excuses and reasons instead of saying, simply acknowledging, yeah, I broke my commitment. That plays into all sorts of things in America, including the cultural facade and performance that you're supposed to be strong and powerful and on top of everything. So if you actually acknowledge that you screwed something up, then maybe there's something wrong with you, or you're not as, haven't got it together as well as you thought you did, or whatever. The fact is that making and breaking commitments is utterly disempowering in so many ways that it's ridiculous. The first way is that you simply stop being if you ever were, it prevents you from being a person, a man or woman of your word. In other words, you're unreliable, and worse than that, it means that you disintegrate yourself. Keeping your word means having integrity. It means being aligned so your words and your actions are the same thing. Keeping commitment means that what you say you will do, you actually do, so that in the process you utilize and grow your willpower. So when you don't keep your commitments, what you're doing is having a split between what you say and what you do. In other words, you then lack integrity, your words lack integrity, and therefore you are disintegrating yourself, which in turn leads to experiencing life as crazy, chaotic, and out of control. And it is because you're out of control. You're not controlling the outcomes in your life that you say you want and that you say you're committed to. When you break commitments, you also break trust with yourself and with whoever else was involved in the commitment, so that you actively create distrust. And then inside yourself, you're not trusting yourself, so how can you trust the world and how can you be trusted? So you're creating an internal and external environment of distrust and mistrust. All of this then of course results in not taking responsibility, because by definition you're breaking commitments when you feel powerless, and it seems like the circumstances of your life have the power to make you break your commitments. And from your powerlessness, you then do not take responsibility. Now, responsibility is seen as a heavy burden or taking on some heavy weight, where in fact it's actually responsibility. It's your ability to respond to yourself, to a situation. So when you break a commitment, taking responsibility means stepping into and activating your response, which is that you've just disempowered yourself, that you've just broken trust. And you have the ability to reverse that, which is to first acknowledge it and then to step back into keeping that commitment. This gets done from a place of not being accountable. And lack of accountability is astonishing, and it's also an endemic disease throughout America, where it appears that virtually no one is accountable, and that the higher in power and status and wealth that people become, the less accountable they become, so that people literally are above the law, despite the so often cited old saw that everyone's accountable under the law in America. It's an absolute lie, and it's been an absolute public lie since Richard Nixon was pardoned. and Henry Kissinger wasn't taken to the World Court for War Crimes, which is why America does not join the World Court, because that's what would happen immediately. So we're not only not accountable with ourselves, we're not accountable in the world.